In each part, you'll hear a number of different extracts. At the start of each extract, you'll hear this sound. You'll hear each extract once only. Remember, while you're listening, write your answers on the question paper. Part A. In this part of the test, you'll hear 2 different extracts. In each extract, a health professional is talking to a patient. For questions 1 to 24, complete the notes with information you hear. Now turn over and look at the notes for extract 1.
Mr. Murray, I'm Dr. Corbett.
Nice to meet you.
Yes, sir. Nice to meet you. Yeah, first time we've met.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I understand you made an appointment for an examination.
Yes, correct.
And we're going to, a complete physical examination, I understand.
Yes.
And I'm going to ask you about why you came into that, but will you mind if I take a few notes just in case?
No, that'll be fine.
In case you got lots to tell me. Don't want to miss too much.
That'll be fine.
Good, good. So you made an appointment for an exam. When's the last time you had a physical examination?
Probably 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, tell me why you made this one.
Well, I had these chronic headaches going on that I've had for about 3 months now, and they're just not getting any better, and I want to see if there's something we can do about it.
So when you say chronic, you're referring to the fact that they've just been steady for 3 months, or they've been longer than that?
Well, it started 3 months ago, and they're like every other day or so, and now I'm having them every day. And
so you have no days when you don't have a headache?
I have a headache every day.
But at the beginning, it didn't seem to be quite as noticeable then for you, huh?
No.
Describe the headaches. Where are they, and what do they feel like?
They start at the back of my head here, and they kind of come up around my temples, I guess you call it, and into the front of my head. Sometimes they're throbbing. Other times they're not quite as bad.
So it's both sides of your...
Yes.
It starts in the back and comes up the front.
Correct.
Do you have a headache all the time, or does it just come in episodes?
Well, I have a headache all the time until I take something. I take Advil and Tylenol, and that seem to help it, and that eases it up.
Is it ever gone? Is it always something there?
There's always something there. I always know it's there. It's just the intensity of it.
I see. Can you tell me a little bit more about what you notice? For example, when is it the worst? At night, in the morning, or doesn't it make a difference?
Well, it doesn't make a whole lot of difference. When I don't get enough sleep, it's really bad. If I move my head in a certain way, or if I strain or stretch my head in a certain way, it seems
like
quite
what
worse.
way? Can you show me that?
If I go like, to the back, or if I'm bending over, just any exaggerated moves.
Any exaggerated move makes it
seems
worse.
to make it worse. And if I don't take the Advil and the Tylenol, it seems to be worse.
Too. I see. So this 3 months ago it started. It's both sides. It's in the back, and you can make it worse if you either extend or lean forward for too long.
Yes. Just I call them exaggerated head movements.
Yeah. What happens when you're lying down? Does that ease it or make it worse?
I think that eases it some.
It does.
Especially if I can get some sleep.
I see.
It seems to ease it up some.
So the act of lying down and sleeping doesn't make it worse?
No, I wouldn't
makes
say
it better, maybe?
Yes.
I see. Does it change based on if you're eating, for example?
No.
Does eating make it worse or better?
No, eating doesn't seem to.
So having a full stomach doesn't seem to
No.
bother it at all.
Uh-huh.
How about if you're concentrating, is when you're driving? Or reading?
No, it doesn't make it worse, except when it's really bad, I have a hard time focusing.
Okay, yeah, that's helpful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Does it ever seem to be more one side than the other?
No, it always seems to come up and be just, it kind of like meets in the middle.
Meets in the middle, huh? Starts in the back, goes around, meets in the middle.
Like a tight band.
Yep. And the part that's always there is what? In the back or all over?
I would say in the back.
In the back there too.
It always starts in the back. I got rear-ended in a car accident, and I can remember my neck got jerked, and I had a sore neck for a couple days, and then the headache started shortly after that.
So that accident started this thing off.
That's when it all
So
started.
you had no headache before this?
No, I had
That's helpful.
no previous headache.
So tell me about that. How fast were you? Were they going?
Well, it wasn't very fast. It was in a parking lot, and I was backing out, and somebody else was backing out the other way, and we met. And I just remember that jerk of my head,
Gotcha.
and having a stiff, sore neck.
So both cars couldn't have been going more than start up?
Yeah.
Okay.
5 miles an hour or something like that.
Did you strike your head when that happened?
No.
Did you recall?
Not that I recall.
Yeah.
I just remember it kind of being, I guess they call it whiplash.
Did you get out of the car right away?
Then I sat there for a few minutes, and then I got out of the
Did
car.
you?
It startled me.
Did you?
Yeah.
Then you said the headache started after that. How long after the actual accident did the headache start?
3 or 4 days after.
So it wasn't right away. There was a
Wasn't
little
right
bit of a
away,
warm-up.
yeah.
There was a kind of an interval in there where you
Yes.
felt fine. I see. Did you think that you had hurt yourself?
I didn't think I really had hurt myself. I didn't, I felt startled and, just kind of shaken, but I didn't feel like I was really injured.
But didn't. Okay.
I didn't go to the hospital or anything like that.
Yeah. Have you? And you said you take some things for it. What actually helps it? What do you?
Tylenol and Advil. I take, I guess it's,
How much do you take?
I take a lot. I take 16 Advils, 4 tabs, 4 times a day,
Wow.
and I take,
Self-prescribed?
yes, 2 Tylenols 4 times a day. So I'm taking
8 Tylenol and 16.
24 pills a day.
Wow. I take it you warmed up to that you weren't using
Right.
that every day.
I started out
I
with less
see.
and it wasn't working, so I just
I
kept
see.
adding to it, and it does give me some relief.
It's a lot of medication.
It doesn't, it seems like too much. That's one of the reasons I came to see you.
Good for you. Yeah. Does that mean it just keeps getting worse?
The headaches just kept getting worse in the severity of them, yes.
Yeah. That's a lot of medication.
Yes.
Before you had this accident, did you use those medications much, if at all?
No, very seldom.
No, never had to take that kind of thing with
No.
any regularity?
No.
Okay. I need to know, too, what else do you experience? Anything else? Does this make your body feel different or painful or uncomfortable in any way?
It makes me feel stressed. I feel stressful with it. I can't sleep well. It's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It's just kind of a nagging thing that's there all the time.
Does it bother your shoulders, your arms? You feel anything down here?
No.
Strength,
Pretty good.
tingling?
No. Not really.
How about just being able to use your arms in normal motion?
Yeah,
That's not disturbed at all?
No, that's fine.
I see. Wow, so you had an accident, took a couple of days for this thing to get to you, 3 or 4 days, but then it started bothering you and persist, and now almost has this stubborn worsening. Is that what I'm...
Daily.
Daily. What kind of work do you do?
I work in a car dealership. I'm a service manager.
Oh, yeah. So has this had an impact on your ability to just do your normal stuff?
Well, again, it has in that it's uncomfortable. I feel stressed because of it. I'm able to do my job. I like my job.
You can do your work. Have you missed any days from work?
I think I missed 2 days in the beginning, but I've been at work since then. I'm able to go to work, but I make sure I have my Advil and Tylenol with me. Other than that, I'm working.
You sound like a
okay.
great employee to me. To work through this kind of thing is pretty difficult.
Well, I like what I do. I work on vintage cars on the side.
I see. Yeah.
So I
Okay.
try to make it.
I have a sense of what you're telling me. What's your diagnosis?
I don't know if I did something to my spinal column back there. I don't know what you guys call it, but something happened when I got hit. is what I think. A jerk did something. Other than that, I don't know what it is.
But you're fairly sure there was a couple of days in there where it wasn't obvious to you that there was anything wrong?
Other than it just being sore.
Okay.
It was sore and stiff. But the headaches didn't start, like I said, until about 3 or 4 days later.
So there was some discomfort
Yes,
right away. But you would call it more soreness or stiffness than an actual headache that like you're having now. Okay.
Right.
Gotcha. Yeah. I need to know a few more things about the effect of this on you. How's your sleeping? Do you sleep okay?
I don't sleep well at all.
Why not?
The headache, the discomfort, it's hard to get to sleep. I sometimes can get to sleep and then the headache wakes me up. So my sleep patterns have been totally disrupted.
So how much sleep are you getting at night compared to what you like to get?
Well, I used to sleep the night through, which was probably at least 8 hours. And I'm probably up 3 and 4 times a night now.
Wow. And how long is that? I would call it a sleep deficit. How long has that been going on?
Well, this happened 3 months ago, probably 2.5 months now. Because it wasn't as bad in the beginning, but they did just get worse.
Wow. Did you consult with anybody else, or you been just toughing this out on your own?
Just been toughing it out on my own and trying to, hoping it will go away, but it's just getting worse.
But you have been able to do your work, think, use your hands?
Yes.
Nothing disturbed in that way, huh?
No.
Gotcha. Anybody else know? Does your wife, are you married?
Yes, I am.
You've been talking to your wife about this?
She certainly knows.
Hi Hannah, nice to meet you.
Hi.
So I understand that you were referred to me by your GP because you've been experiencing some anxiety difficulties.
Yeah. I guess it kind of started like 5-6 years ago.
Okay.
It escalated a bit. I've just recently moved out from living with my parents, so it's made it a bit worse, I think.
Okay, is this the first time that you've left home?
Yeah, it's the first time actually, yeah. I was going to a few years ago, I just thought it would be easier to stay at home, so.
Okay, so it's been quite a big step and a big change, and it sounds like that was what led you to go to your GP.
Yeah.
So how has that changed things for you?
Do you know, it's kind of, I haven't really told anyone, so, I mean, it's made it like better in the sense that I feel hopefully this is it, like it'll help, but I don't know, I don't like thinking that I've had to do this. I never thought I'd like be the kind of person who'd have to actually go and like get help, if that makes sense.
Okay, so how do you feel about being here today?
A bit like scared, I don't know, hopefully it will help.
Okay, so you've been feeling a little bit anxious about today?
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess just going back to why you went to the GP and how you've ended up kind of coming here today. So it sounds like you've been experiencing anxiety for quite a few years, but just recently you moved out of home for the first time, and that was what kind of led you to go to the GP. So how did that change things? How were things after you moved out?
I thought that they'd be better, but because I thought I'd have to kind of be independent, but it's actually a lot worse. I'm just kind of staying in the house a lot. I don't really have any friends or anything. I mean, my family come and visit a bit, but it's not, I don't know, it's kind of scary because I've just been kind of literally just in the flat by myself, which I always thought I'd like, but I don't actually like it.
Okay. So what are the kind of difficulties that you have been experiencing?
I mean, I'm a photographer, so I kind of it's been stopping me a bit, my anxiety from being able to get work, and because every time, you know, there's an opportunity that is kind of involving me having to interact with people, I just tend to just turn it down. So I was kind of making things hard in that respect, and just kind of friends-wise and everything, I feel like I'm just kind of increasingly more alone. So it's kind of stopping me from making friends and, you know, like relationships and stuff.
Okay, so you said that your difficulties are getting in the way of you doing certain things, so they're stopping you from taking up kind of certain types of work. And as a freelance photographer, I guess that can be kind of a problem.
Yeah.
And they're also stopping you, or you feel like it's stunting you socially. You're not kind of able to make new friends and get to meet new people.
Yeah. It was kind of easier when I was at home because I was obviously, I mean, my parents and stuff, that's fine, but, you know, I'd go to places with them, or I'd kind of have people there, but more and more I'm just finding myself just staying in a lot. I mean, I went like 2 weeks ago for coffee with my friends, and the whole time I was just kind of wanting to go home again. So I don't want that to happen. I don't want to lose everyone.
So you're kind of worried about where this is going to lead to.
Yeah.
Okay. So you said that you first noticed the anxiety kicking in when about 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah.
So you would have been about 19.
Yeah.
And what was happening around that time?
I guess I'd finished school about a year before that. And I mean, I've always been a bit shy at school, but it was never ever like, it didn't really affect things as much as, not at all as much as it has been doing the last few years, I guess. It just started when like my friends went to university, and I don't know, I felt like I was expected to kind of move out or just do something, and then it just kind of escalated from there. I'd just stop going to parties, or I'd just say no to invitations, or I don't know, I thought my job would help because, I mean, I love it. I really like doing photography, but I'm just kind of getting less and less work as it goes on. So, which is my fault. I keep saying no, but...
What kind of work is the most difficult for you in your job?
I guess when I have to kind of be working with other people. I don't like that. It's like when I'm trying to kind of do an event or something where there's a lot of people there, not just photographers, but actual, you know, if I'm like taking photos of people, that, I don't know, I just kind of find myself saying no. I mean, I want to do them, but just it's scary, so I just don't do it.
So I guess tell me a bit more about what happens then. So let's focus on maybe an invitation to do a job with, you know, it's going to involve photography with a group of people, and you're going to have social interaction. What kind of thoughts go through your head?
I mean, I get really hot and sweaty, and I feel like everyone's kind of looking at me and thinking that I'm just like really stupid, and I feel like they're all going to be staring and thinking I just can't do my job and I'm just an idiot, and I mean, they'll think that I just look like a weirdo, and I just try and get out of the situation or just focus on something else. So that's why I like doing shots where it's just me and the camera, because then I can just put all my attention on that instead of having to, you know, be with other people.
Okay, so it sounds like you have quite a lot of thoughts rushing through your head then at the point where you get that invitation and you think, people will look, people will stare, people will think I'm a weirdo.
Yeah.
So there's quite a lot about what you think other people will think.
Yeah.
And how does that make you feel?
Just makes me feel like an idiot. It makes me feel like I just shouldn't even bother trying to do it anymore. I should just go home, and I think I just don't want to be in that situation. I just feel like everyone else is fine and they're normal, and I'm just the freak who can't like do normal things. And
Okay.
Part B. In this part of the test, you'll hear 6 different extracts. In each extract, you'll hear people talking in a different healthcare setting. For questions 25 to 30, choose the answer A, B, or C, which fits best according to what you hear. You'll have time to read each question before you listen. Complete your answers as you listen. Now look at question 25. Now read the question.
Okay, your order sheet is in your chart. It's under the tab that's labeled Physician's Orders. You're going to check these orders against your paper MAR. There's 2 pages to your paper MAR, your routine medicines and your PRN medicines. So first check your patient's name, Sally Gunter, Sally Gunter. Okay, then check for the date of birth, 5/8/41, 5/8/41. The next thing you want to look at is allergies. Sally is allergic to penicillin. Your allergy is penicillin. And you want to go down and you want to verify every medicine that they have. So on the orders, it's potassium chloride, 40 milliequivalents, PO 3 times a day. Potassium chloride, oral, liquid, 40 milliequivalents, PO 3 times a day. K-Flex, 250 milligrams, PO every 6 hours. K-Flex, 250 milligrams, PO every 6 hours. Norvasc, 5 milligrams, PO twice a day. Norvasc, 5 milligrams, PO twice a day. Prilosec, 20 milligrams, PO daily. Prilosec, 20 milligrams, PO daily. When you're looking at your physician's order, make sure it has a date, a time, and a physician's signature. Sally Gunter also has a PRN order of clonidine, 0.1 milligram tablet every 6 hours, PRN for diastolic blood pressure greater than 90. Clonidine, 0.1 milligram tablet, PO every 6 hours, PRN for diastolic blood pressure greater than 90. Now all your routine meds and your PRN meds are checked against your physician's order sheet. The next thing you want to do is to look here. Number 1 is compare your order sheet to your MAR and then your initial once verified. So you would sign your initials that you verified these medicines.
Question 26. Now read the question.
Let's examine this. If I have the fearful thought that I could ultimately lose everything, then it's not going to move me forward. It's not going to help me think clearly. It's not going to help me, move forward and take the actions that I need to take. It can kind of limit me and make me feel like I don't want to do anything because I'm scared to do anything. But what I have found, and this is what I do all the time, is when I'm having a fearful thought, I know that I can't not think about something. Because the more you try to not think about something, the more you're just going to think about it. So you have to replace that thought. And what I replace that thought with is, how can I use this fearful thought or use this fearful event to make me a better person, a better nurse, and to learn from this experience? I'm happy to share this with you so that you can, hopefully learn from my mistakes. So what happened was I realized that I made the mistake, and not only had I made the mistake once, I had actually done it the first time I administered the medication as well. So I thought about it and I was like, okay, well, of course I have to do an incident report. With the mistake, I'm going to show her that I can, not only take care of the situation and have her trust me with her patients, but she can also see that I'm a very confident person and that this mistake won't happen again. So I went to her and I said, I told her the mistake, ultimately told her what happened, and, it was a mistake, and we examined it, and, she asked me a few questions, and it was an uncomfortable situation, but what I realized was that I came out of that as well as I possibly could have. Having the lack of confidence, you can replace that with, no matter what happens, I will build from this and I will learn from this and I will ultimately become a better person. So guys, it's all about replacing those fearful thoughts with thoughts that are going to serve you.
Question 27. Now read the question.
I was actually talking about culture-bound phenomena, and I had a professor of psychology say to me that there's no evidence that culture-bound or cultural illness exists. And I actually said to him, my response to him was that you're absolutely correct. And people were quite surprised when I said you're absolutely correct in the world in which you live. So you actually can't necessarily blame someone if they've never actually been exposed to it before. So the important point is that if you actually don't have it in a framework that most people, and what I'm talking about is mainstream, can relate to, in that it's actually researched and it's written up in a scientific journal, then they're actually forced to relate to it, or at least open their mindset up to a different reality.
Question 28. Now read the question.
Hello, I'm Jan Machescu. I called this morning.
Yes, Mr. Machescu, your prescriptions are right here. They've been ready for an hour.
Good.
Now, take these pills 3 times a day. That's every 8 hours.
I usually take them at 7 in the morning, 3 in the afternoon, and 1 before I go to bed about 10 or 11 at night.
That's fine.
When do I take the other pills?
You can take these any time you feel a pain.
Well, it's almost lunchtime. Is it okay if I take one before lunch?
It's better if you wait until after lunch, after you've eaten.
Well, why is that?
The pills may upset your stomach if it's empty.
Oh, okay. I'll wait till after lunch. I'll take one about 1 o'clock this afternoon. Well, thanks very much for your help.
You're welcome.
Question 29. Now read the question.
Right, I'd like to tell you about all the patients on this ward, starting with bed 1. John Smith is a 45-year-old male who had a motorbike accident on his way home from work. He was admitted to the ED at 2300 hours on the 1st of August with a frontal lobe contusion.
Sorry, I don't know that word contusion. Could you please explain?
Sure, in this case it means a concussion. Thank you. He has breaks in his right arm and hand and has had surgery, including metal plates inserted into his arm. He also has deep grazes on his left knee and ankle and stitches in his right hip and shoulder.
Stitches in the right hip and shoulder?
Yes, that's right. All dressings have been changed this morning at 900 hours. He's on a self-administered morphine drip and he's also on an antibiotic drip. He has had injections to prevent blood clotting and his pain is quite manageable with the medication he's on.
Question 30. Now read the question.
I worked with this man called Graham. That wasn't his real name. He started to hear voices. He had strong paranoid beliefs that people were talking about him. He had to come into hospital, and the main way of actually helping overcome that loneliness and isolation as a result of his experiences was to really enter his world, to develop a shared model, a shared understanding of how these experiences shaped his beliefs and how that made him feel both emotionally and how he reacted behaviourally by avoiding a whole range of situations. It makes me feel really good actually, and it gives me a tremendous source of satisfaction that actually by relating to somebody, by understanding somebody, that you can actually empower them and help them recover. Without the benefits of professional help, Graham would still be stuck at home, he would still be experiencing rather distressing voices.
That is the end of Part B. Now look at Part C. Part C. In this part of the test, you'll hear 2 different extracts. In each extract, you'll hear health professionals talking about aspects of their work. For questions 31 to 42, choose the answer A, B, or C, which fits best according to what you hear. Complete your answers as you listen. Now look at Extract 1. Extract 1, questions 31 to 36. You now have 90 seconds to read questions 31 to 36.
Tell me a little bit about the progress in the plant-based movement recently.
There's been tremendous progress, particularly in the health field. At least that's certainly my perspective. So in the States, there's just been a real surge, a real tipping point in terms of the plant-based nutrition movement. There are now entire conferences. There's an international plant-based nutrition healthcare conference. Hundreds of physicians, other medical professionals get together, talk about how they're using this in their practice. I mean, that didn't exist a few years ago. And it's really, really exciting. There's new vegan medical clinics opening up where all the folks on staff are using lifestyle medicine approaches, not just to prevent disease, but to stop and reverse it as well.
Tell me about the main players involved. You've got Nutrition Facts growing, you've got the Physicians Committee doing a lot of work. Who are the main players and what's been achieved specifically in the last few months and last year? What's been the memorable moment for you?
Well, so, a lot of people don't know about Scott Stoll, who started this, PBNHC, this Plantrition project, this plant-based nutrition conference. He's been doing these immersion programs for Whole Foods for a long time now. He has a book coming out.
Okay.
I'm very excited about that. He's just had transformative experiences. He's just a physician in practice. There's people all over who've been doing this in their own little, hometowns. But it's just great to get so many people together, start networking. So there's wonderful resources out now, documentaries. We got a number of documentaries coming up, like The Game Changers and Eat Yourself Alive. And I mean, this is an exciting time to be in the movement. And I think, a lot of it is just there's so much, we're going to get there if only because the healthcare costs are spiraling out of control, right? Climate change. We're just going to be forced to have to take these, safe, simple, side effect-free solutions, cheaper, safer, more effective than conventional medical approaches, because we're talking about the leading killers, right? The leading cause of death. The good news is that the vast majority of premature death and disability is preventable with a plant-based diet and other healthy lifestyle behaviors. We have the power, we have tremendous power over our medical destiny and longevity.
You talk passionately about the benefits of plant-based diet, particularly reversing heart disease. My old boss, he was a professor of epidemiology called Professor Tim Spector. He said he met Dr. Dean Ornish. Dr. Dean Ornish said, the thing with the plant-based movement is you get the sense you're either with them or against them. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But also what he said was there aren't any large randomised control trials. He said, Dr. Dean Ornish, show me the large randomised... Why aren't there any? If we've known about this since Pritikin's day, where's the data, the large randomised control trials?
Well, look, Ornish published his first RCT, randomised control trial, July 1990, in The Lancet, the most prestigious medical journal in the world. There it was, black and white, proving with quantitative angiography that we can reverse heart disease, open up arteries without drugs, without surgery, just a healthy plant-based diet and other lifestyle changes. There it was. Right? So we've known about it for decades, but there it was, published in some of the most prestigious medical journals in the world, The Lancet, JAMA, yet what happened? Nothing. Hundreds of thousands of people continue to die of a reversible, preventable disease.
So it's being ignored.
It's being lost down the rabbit hole and ignored. I said, well, wait a second. If effectively the cure to our number one killer could get lost like that, what else is there in the medical literature that could help my patients, but just didn't have a corporate budget driving its promotion? I made it my life's mission to find out. That's why I started nutritionfacts.org, and that's why I wrote my new book, How Not to Die.
What I find very interesting is you say the system needs to take on board this message, but the whole point of Nutrition Facts was to go round the system. Tell me a little bit about the democratization of information and the role that's played and why that's been good for the movement, I guess.
When I started out ignoring the general public and going straight, trying to train the trainers effectively, going around speaking at all the medical schools in the States to try to, get the next generation of doctors educated. But then I realized that's a slow way about it. We don't have time. People are dying now. I don't need to, for another 10 years for them to kind of slowly take over the medical system. People are dying now. We need to take this directly to the people. And thankfully, thanks to the internet age, we now have this democratization of information. Now everyone has access. Before, the doctors had a monopoly on information about health. And so, big pharma, the food industry, all they had to do is get to the doctors. The tobacco industry, as long as they could get the AMA on board by writing them checks for $10 million, and so they came out opposed to the Surgeon General's report against smoking in 1964. As long as they control the doctors, they control the health message. No longer. Now, people can get to the science directly, educate themselves, and we can't wait until society catches up to the science, because it's a matter of life and death.
USDA, I've read their mission is to expand markets for agricultural products. But at the same time, they're coming out with the dietary guidelines. Is that one of the challenges you have in the States?
The USDA has an inherent conflict of interest. The U.S. Department of Agriculture, look, the same thing happened here in Great Britain. Right? There was the Ministry of Food and Forestry, right? And then the mad cow debacle came, and they basically dissolved the department, right? put food safety in charge of medical professionals in charge of food safety instead of agricultural professionals. Same conflict of interest exists in the States. U.S. Department of Agriculture has this dual mission to promote agricultural products. That's what they're there for. But also, we put them in charge of food safety, meat inspections, helping to come up with the nutrition guidelines. So when it comes to eat more messaging, the message is clear. Eat more fruits and vegetables. There it is, right there in black and white in the dietary guidelines. But what about eat less messaging? Then there's a conflict. So what do you get? Instead of eat less meat, eggs, dairy, junk, what do they say? Eat less saturated and trans fatty acids, things like that. Biochemical components, right? Because they don't want to mention foods because that's too politically unpalatable.
But they'll mention vegetables, they'll mention fruits.
Well, they'll mention fruits and vegetables because it's an eat more messaging. Yeah. Everybody's happy. Promote agricultural products and promote health. If they can do it without undermining the profit motive, they'd be happy to make the American public healthier.
Can you just explain a little bit about how corrupt the medical industry is in the US? It's kind of related to what you talked about already.
Well, there's a number of barriers for doctors. So you say, okay, we understand why some of the mainstream medical associations are sucking up to industry because they're being sponsored by Big Pharma, for example. But why aren't individual doctors speaking out? Well, there's a severe nutrition deficiency in doctors in education. We just weren't taught this in medical school, so we graduate without these powerful tools in our medical toolbox. We just weren't taught how to teach people to take better care of themselves, right? But of course, there's other barriers. There's lack of time, lack of reimbursement. Doctors aren't paid to tell people how to take better care of themselves. And also, there's much of medical education, both during medical school and postgraduate medical education, is paid for by the drug industry. I mean, the number one reason people go to their doctor in North America is what are called blood pressure checks. And they keep going to get their blood pressure checked so they can tweak the blood pressure medications. And so that's a boon not only to Big Pharma, which sell these chronic disease drugs that people take every single day for the rest of their lives because they're not actually treating the cause of their disease, right? Because they're not actually changing their diet. So they need to be treated every day for the rest of their life. So it's the boon to the Big Pharma, but also that's where the doctor's getting their next BMW from and sending their kids to college. I mean, it's the bread and butter of the GPs, of the primary care docs, is these blood pressure checks, which wouldn't be necessary if they didn't have high blood pressure. The number one killer risk factor in the world, 9 million people die of high blood pressure, a disease that need not occur if people ate plant-based diet, something we've known since the 1920s.
Now look at Extract 2. Extract 2, questions 37 to 42. You now have 90 seconds to read questions 37 to 42.
We've been studying a disorder called seasonal affective disorder. Norman Rosenthal first identified this disorder in the mid-'80s. The theory is that a decrease in light during the long winter months may be responsible for triggering a chemical imbalance that in turn may cause depression among those people with a predisposition to depression. Supposedly there's an area of the brain called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, which is very close to the retina of the eye. So this area of the brain responds to light by sending a signal to the pineal gland, and the signal causes the gland to suppress a secretion of a hormone called melatonin. To make a long story short, the more light, the less melatonin in the blood. Okay, the acronym for seasonal affective disorder that's being used in the field is SAD. We didn't come up with that. And in fact, I personally think that it's an inappropriate way to refer to such a serious type of depression, since it sounds rather mild, and seasonal affective disorder can be a very severe and debilitating disorder for some people. In fact, in extreme cases, it's life-threatening when patients become suicidal. So anyway, as you can appreciate, the winter here is very dark, cold, and gray. By spring, almost everyone's tired of the gloom. But for some people, those suffering with seasonal affective disorder, it can be a serious problem. People with seasonal affective disorder experience deep and prolonged depression throughout the winter months, with what looks like a spontaneous alleviation of the condition when spring arrives. Before the disorder was identified, it was rather a mystery for friends and family, since the depression appeared to vanish only to return several months later. Now, although previous research isn't conclusive, we do know that younger people, especially younger women, these women are at a higher risk for developing the disorder and for being affected by it in a more severe form. If I recall, about 75% of those affected are women, with a typical age of onset about 30 years old. Other factors that contribute to the problem, apart from the long dark days, of course, these factors include heredity and stress. What are the symptoms? Well, the usual spectrum of problems associated with depression: anxiety, lack of concentration, a tendency to sleep more and eat more, cravings for food with a high sugar content. This may be accompanied by weight gain. On the other hand, some people actually lose their appetites and tend to lose a significant amount of weight. We also see lower energy levels, and for some people, a dull headache may accompany the problem. So, building on the research studies that identified the symptoms of seasonal affective disorder and the high-risk profile, we decided to undertake a longitudinal study of 120 subjects, and our research is really focusing on therapies that might help those people affected by SAD. Traditionally, psychotherapy has been used to identify and modify behaviors that contribute to depression, and it's been somewhat successful with patients identified with seasonal affective disorder, especially when used in combination with relaxation and stress reduction therapies. Antidepressant drug therapy has also been proven to reduce depression in studies of people who had seasonal disorders. But we've been using phototherapy almost exclusively with the subjects in our studies. It's very simple, really. We've supplied each subject with a light box that provides the same type of natural lighting that would normally be shining through the window during the spring and summer. The subjects have been instructed to turn on the light box for 2 hours and then simply go about their activities in the room where the box is placed. They're not supposed to use the box like a sun lamp, no staring into the light, either with the eyes closed or open. They just ignore it once it's turned on. So, although we're still evaluating our data from the first group of subjects, we have a few preliminary findings that I'll share with you today. First, we think that it's probably better to be exposed to the light box during the morning hours. Second, we're noticing a relationship between sleep patterns and seasonal depression, so maintaining a regular schedule for sleep seems to be a helpful therapy in conjunction with the light treatment. We're also fairly sure that the duration of light therapy can be modified for individuals. Some subjects who were exposed to the light for less than 2 hours did very well, while others showed no evidence of relief until they reestablished the 2-hour treatments. One interesting possibility that we're working on is whether fluorescent lights might work as well as full-spectrum light with the ultraviolet rays filtered out. In our first trials, we used UV light exclusively, but now we have some trials underway with fluorescent light, and the results so far are encouraging. I'm also happy to report that there are few subjects who are experiencing side effects. There's no evidence of eye damage. We've been careful to filter out any potentially damaging UV rays. And in fact, the only negative side effect was minor headache that seemed to disappear after a few treatments. So, next semester, we plan to begin the second stage of our studies, and we'll be comparing the degree of depression on the part of subjects undergoing light treatments with control groups who'll receive either drug treatments or psychotherapy. What we really want to know is whether light treatments alone are as effective as the other options for therapy.
That is the end of Part C.